To kick off, maybe just meet a few people. What's your name, sir? Mike, what do you do for work? Going to be a real estate agent. Nice. Congrats. Give it up for Mike if you're entering the business right now, huh? In the pink. Michelle, what do you do for work? Realtor. Okay. Let's try one more. You, ma'am. Gina. Realtor. Okay, cool. Mostly probably all realtors, maybe some lenders here or there. Raise your hand if you think there's any changes happening in real estate right now. Couple? I'm literally not making this up. I was in the car with my Uber driver on the way over here, and he goes, "Where are you going?" I go, "Oh, I'm going to this real estate conference." And he says, it's kind of coming in and out. It says, "Oh, yeah, I heard about there's like no more real estate commissions, right?" And I chuckle, and I was like, "Well, not really," but I didn't really want to get into it with the Uber driver. I think it's really exciting. I think there's an incredible opportunity. I think it's really great that we're talking about the real estate professional of the future. And when I say real estate professional, I'm going to be synonymous with lenders and realtors because I think we're both in that game. The reason I believe that is because I believe that there is actually no place for the real estate professional of 2023 and prior, in 2024 moving forward. I believe that person, that profession is gone. Now, what I also know, and what my goal is today, is that by the time we're done here, if I do my job right, the next time somebody asks you what you do for a living, look at them, smile, and tell them you're changing the real estate industry. I promise the conversation will go better. So I'm going to ask you to really help unpack this and uncover how. I'm going to ask you to imagine something with me. So let's imagine that everybody in this room gets a phone call, and we all have to go to Mars tomorrow, and we're going to be there for 10 years. We're going to colonize Mars. And in this 10-year time span, we have to give all of our real estate, all of our financials, all of our assets, right, everything we own, we have to give to somebody. And 10 years later, when we get back, whatever's left of it, good, bad, or indifferent, we're going to get back. What kind of qualities does that person need to have? What are some of the characteristics that you would look for if you were going to give that much importance to someone? Trust? You'd really have to trust that person, right? Knowledge, education, competency in real estate, finance, and all the things that are associated with it. And the last thing is care. They have to show at some point in their life that they've cared about you in some way, good or bad. Now, think about who you would, like if you had to write a name down, who would you write down? Who in your life would you give that opportunity to? If you're like me, it's very few people. I literally had one name come to mind, and I'm in this business. But the unfortunate reality is that for most of our clients, they'll have no names to write down. Why? Is it because they don't know anyone that they trust? No. Is it because they don't know anyone who's competent or can manage their real estate or their finances? No. Nobody cares about them? No. It's just they don't know one person who's all three of those things. When you think about it, that's pretty sad, right? The average person is trying to create wealth for their family solely on their own. One thing I know is that wealthy people aren't wealthy because they have money. They're wealthy because they have information, right? And they have people in their lives that are giving them advice and information proactively. And that's the future that I think we need to strive for. And you might be thinking, well, Ryan, why do we have to solve that? We're real estate agents and lenders. Well, what's the alternative? Over 92% of America will not talk to a financial planner. Not going to talk to a CPA, not going to talk to an estate planning attorney. They're just solely on their own. But think about it. Almost everybody in America at some point is going to wonder, I wonder if I could just buy a house. Because that's in our DNA. Right? We literally fought a war to own land. So if that's true, what does that mean? That means that our industry has the greatest opportunity to impact the largest number of families' overall financial livelihood than any industry in the country. You just have not stepped into it yet. So let me try and paint that picture for you. What was your name again? I know we met earlier. Leah. So Leah, imagine I call you. I say, hey, Leah, I was referred to you by my good friend. I was talking to him the other day. He was just mentioning how great you and your team have been. You've helped him in all sorts of real estate and finance. You've helped him in so many areas. And he just recommended I call you. I'd love to just kind of tell you my situation and get some advice. What do you think? What did I not do on that call? I didn't ask about buying or selling a home. I didn't ask about a mortgage. I just heard that you genuinely help people and that I don't have someone like you in my life, and I was told to call you. That's the opportunity that we have. No one else is going to step into that. We can. Right? And I think this is why it's so important. This is why I'm going to imagine you, like, what if we were, as an industry, what if we were seen as the group that provided the holistic guidance and advice and planning that people just genuinely are not going to get? So to help you understand why I think this future is so important, I'm going to tell you a few stories. These stories are in large part why NEO exists today. It's in large part why I speak all around the country, helping people to kind of reimagine what we're doing here. So the first story is there's a newlywed couple, and this was me in 2015. This couple calls me and they say, hey, we really want to buy a house. We were referred to you by so-and-so. And I do my job, right? Which is I pre-approve them and I send them out to go find a home. And then the real estate agent does their job. She showed them 9 million properties. They ended up not buying a home. I just think, okay, well, they didn't buy a home, no big deal. The realtor didn't think much of it. I got a call from that same couple last year in 2023. It had been 8 years, and they say, hey, we still haven't bought a house, but I think we're ready. 8 years to get ready? Kind of missed the boat. The problem is, in order for them to be ready, they had to move out of state. They had to move away from their family. They have 2 kids now. They had to move school districts. They had to completely upend their life because they couldn't afford, I was in Orange County at the time, they couldn't afford to buy a property in Orange County. They could only afford to buy it out of state. They displaced their entire life just so they could buy a home. That was my fault. You might be thinking, well, why? Well, because I thought my job was to pre-approve someone and then just close the loan. That was the real estate agent's fault. She thought her job was just to show them properties and talk to them about, why each one of those properties might work for them. That's not our job. Our job is to remove anxiety, fear, uncertainty, and replace it with excitement and confidence and motivation. And if I would have known that back then, I would have acted very differently with that client, and I'll show you how we're going to do that here in a minute. Next story is, sorry, I'm forgetting about my slides here. This is actually, when I asked why they didn't buy a home, they said, well, because we kept seeing the headlines that showed us that it was not a good time. And I said, we read the articles. I'm like, you didn't read the articles. First of all, you barely read the headline. If you would have read the article, it probably wouldn't have been that bad. But look at this, October 2015, a bubble larger than 2006. August 2016, new housing bubble. 17, homeownership doesn't build wealth. That's one great one. September 2018, it's better to rent than buy in today's housing market. I mean, it goes on and on and on. That's what our clients are seeing. Our responsibility as real estate professionals is to help them maneuver through this, right? Make really smart decisions in the face of scary emotion. And I think that this probably holds true. I saw this slide about a year ago. It says, every unhappy family is stuck in the resentment of the past. I promise that family was. Paralyzed by the fear of the future. We don't know what's going to happen. Is the housing market going to crash? And driven crazy by the anxiety of the moment. Raise your hand if that classifies almost every client you have. Right? It's our opportunity to fix that. Next story is a veteran. This was not my client. This was somebody who was in my coaching community. He shared this with me. He helped a veteran buy a home. 3-4 years later, that veteran wanted to start a business. And he didn't have the money to start the business, so he actually borrowed money from like a private money, completely unencumbered by the house. Business ended up failing. He didn't have the money to pay back that mortgage. He had $600,000 in equity by the time he had to pay that loan back when the business started failing. But he couldn't pay that private loan back, and he ended up taking his life. He just didn't know. He didn't have the information. He didn't know that he could easily refinance and take $100,000 out of his home and pay off that high interest debt and be completely okay. But we expected him to know, right? It's, well, you should have called us. We're here for you. You're going to be a client for life. We need to be much more proactive with our clients than that. And in the last story, we helped a young family buy a property in 2017. And wife, husband, 2 kids. The wife calls me a year later and says, Ryan, we have to sell our home. I said, why? What happened? The market's going straight up. Because my husband got in a car accident and he passed away and we can't afford the house anymore. I was like, okay, well, look, first of all, I'm so sorry that happened, but I want you to know that life insurance is going to step in. It'll likely pay off the mortgage. It'll help cover costs and expenses with the kids. I think you'll be okay. What do you think she said to me? No life insurance. That was absolutely my fault. And everybody tried to tell me it wasn't. Ryan, you don't sell life insurance? You're a loan officer. That may be true, but I'm also a father. I'm a husband. I own a home. I have life insurance. Why? Because someone told me how important it was. But somewhere along the line, the real estate community and the mortgage community never thought that that was important. We could have just asked one more question before they bought the home. We could have followed up one more time after that client bought the home and said, hey, right now, you just closed, you own a home. There is 1,000,000 steps to becoming a successful homeowner. This is just the beginning. Let us help you take those steps. But I didn't do that. And because of it, we had a pretty broken family. Now, it was around this time, there was a lot of other things happening in my career at that point. But I said, look, what I set out to do, which was help people. By the way, one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone asks a realtor or lender what they do and we say, we like helping people. It's not true. All we're doing is solving the transaction that they're asking for. If they don't buy a house through you, they're going to do it through you. If they don't get their mortgage through me, they're going to do it through somebody else. If we genuinely want to say we're helping people, we have to be different. And that's when I said, okay, if I'm not doing that now, how do I do that? So I started doing some research. This is what a loan officer is titled, right? This is what it means to be a loan officer. Someone who reviews, approves, or rejects applications for loans. Who wanted to be that growing up? No one? Someone who updates account records and reviews loan files, processes loan applications, and evaluates. Does anyone have that poster on their room as a kid? Nobody wants to be that person. What about real estate agents? Essentially, a salesperson qualified to help consumers buy or sell a property. Professionals licensed to organize and assist transactions, representing buyers and sellers in transactions. How many times do you see transaction on this thing? Problem is, this is how people see us, but it's also how we see ourselves. Now, we can dress it up, and we can say it's different. But until we actually do something about it, it won't be different. So I said, okay, well, what can it look like? So I looked at financial planners, right? They seem to help people. Only people with money, but they still help people. Right? So manage financial affairs and work towards their long-term financial goals. Creates a plan to help you reach your goals. Manage financial affairs, develop financial goals, and create strategies. It's like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I just don't want to be a financial planner. I really enjoy the mortgage side of the business. And I know all my real estate partners really enjoy the real estate side of the business. Why don't we just do that? For all the people that are not going to have that in their life. And that's when I said, we can completely redefine the expectations of real estate or mortgage professionals. I actually made the commitment to my team. I said, we're never going to be $1 more expensive than the cheapest mortgage lender in the country unless we can quantifiably show our clients how we are going to be more valuable to them, how we're going to help them become more generationally wealthy. People don't choose us because of our work ethic. They don't choose us because of our speed. They don't choose us because of our customer service or any of the things that everyone says. They choose us because they believe they will have a better, more secure financial future because of us. And this is when I said, okay, we can change that right now. So Dylan started this off by saying, take away one thing. I'm going to give you quite a few things that you can do immediately after leaving here to start this practice, right? When somebody asks you what you do for a living, tell them how you're changing the real estate industry. So the biggest thing is I would say, look, Mr. Smith, most agents are going to help you with the transaction. And then you're going to get just sold cards, and you're going to get marketing, and you'll get pies on Thanksgiving. We are going to actually take your hand and take you where we know you can go. Right? We'll be that proactive in your life. So here's some common conversations that you're likely having today. One, how many times when you have a conversation with someone are you hearing, kind of, I'm not sure, I'm not ready, maybe? Probably primarily the conversations we're having with everyone, homeowners, prospective homeowners. Next conversation is people who feel trapped in their home. They just don't want to give up that 2.75% interest rate and trade it in for a 7.25% interest rate. Right? So they feel kind of stuck. You're probably having a lot of those conversations. People who are ready and pre-approved, this is everybody's favorite client. Yeah, I'm ready to go, I'm pre-approved, let's go. And then lastly, people who just aren't interested. You tell them what you do and they go, oh yeah, I'm not planning on buying or selling, but good to meet you. Right? I want to help you understand how to have each one of these conversations in the light of being something more proactive and more valuable to your clients. So, how do you get someone to engage who says they're not ready right now? I ask this to most audiences. They say, well, you keep asking questions. You keep asking questions, and you overcome objections. We're not here to overcome objections. Right? These are valid concerns that people have. We're just simply here to educate them. So the first thing is the script. And it stops becoming a script when it becomes a belief. The script just gives you the outline. What's your name? Peyton. So Peyton, you're a buyer, right? And I'm going to be an agent. I'm going to be talking to you. Say, hey, Peyton, I know you talked about it, or you inquired online, or you reached out about buying a home. How are you feeling about it? Peyton's response is going to be, you know what, I kind of want to. I just don't know if it's the right time. I don't know, interest rates are high. I kind of want to wait for rates to come down. So she's just not certain or not ready, right? This is a very common conversation. The problem that most of us have in our industry is we try and help her understand why that might not be true. But I don't want to do that. I want to invite her into something different. So I'm going to say, Peyton, look, first of all, I completely understand, right? It's a confusing time. What I've found is that the majority of our clients, when they don't know what to do, it's because they just don't have all the information, right? They look at a lot of the national economy, but they haven't really taken a deep dive on their personal economy. What I'd really recommend you do is just spend some time with our financing team. They're not going to run your credit. They're not going to try and sell you anything. But what it'll do is it'll give you all the information and education you need to make a really confident decision. And if it's the right time, we'll help you take those steps. And if it's not, we'll create a plan and a strategy and a timeline to get you there at some point. Either way, you shouldn't be in wonderment. You shouldn't just be not sure. You should just have a plan. So would you be open to meeting with them and they can just kind of walk you through it and give you more clarity? Yeah, Peyton's in, right? That is the approach that we need to be taking with people. And there has never been a more important time for real estate professionals and mortgage professionals to be tied at the hip. Because everyone would buy a home if money were not an issue. Everybody would own a home if money were not an issue. People aren't buying and selling, it's because of the money. Right? If you have a mortgage professional who can solve that problem, right, and really believe that that is the problem that needs to be solved, you get to have that conversation a lot better. So here's some more things that you might want to talk to people when they say, I'm not sure, I'm not ready. This is a lot of times homeowners or prospective homeowners, which is, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, are you in the home today that you want to be in for the next 10 plus years? More often than not, you're going to get a no, right? Because people bought their home X number of years ago, and now they're just kind of trapped in it. Well, let us show you what it might look like to get you in that home today, because I think it's more appropriate today than it will be next year or the year after. What about investing in real estate? Right? That conversation should be happening with every single person we're coming across. Because a lot of times people think, well, I don't have the money to invest in real estate. It could literally just be converting your current home into a rental property and buying a new one with 0 or 3% down. You just bought an investment property. You're living in the new one. Assessing cash flow, liquidity, and what we call HBDR, which is household blended debt ratio. There are hundreds of people in your database or in your market that are really struggling with this right now, and they don't know how to solve it because they have a low interest rate and they're tied to that. And I'll show you that here in a second. And lastly, it's just, the same way that I would have called and said, hey, can you just help me create kind of a plan or strategy? Because I'm just not sure what to do. Every person you talk to should have some sort of plan or strategy. What we need to do is we need to stop looking for people who are ready right now. Only 1% of America is going to buy a home this year. That means 99% won't. But if the 99% had a plan and a strategy and a timeline and somebody proactively holding their hand, pulling them along, changes the game a little bit. So this is an example of HBDR. This was a client of ours earlier this year. This was their situation. They owned a home at $800,000. They wanted to move to a $1.1 million home. They had a 2.75% interest rate. Nobody wants to give that up. Right? They have a home equity line of credit, $85,000, $35,000 car loan, $55,000 in debt at 23% average, $5,000 in liquid savings earning next to nothing, very little in income, disposable income, $200,000 life insurance, not nearly enough, no estate plan, will, or trust, wants to retire by 60, that's not going to happen. $72,000 in a 401k, wants to help kids go to college, no financial planner, never gotten advice from agent or lender proactively, and doesn't know what to do. You could almost put anyone's picture up there, and that would apply in some capacity, right? They would have some relation to that example. But with the right guidance, and most realtors and lenders would say, well, I have a 2.75 rate. There's no way they're going to go from that to a $300,000 more expensive home at today's rates. That's not true. That's what this client looks like now. They're in that $1.1 million home. They have the same interest rate. The numbers are just changed, 7.25 now. HELOC's paid off, car's free and clear, no credit card debt. They have $45,000 in savings today, $2 million in term life insurance. They have an estate plan or trust. They're on pace to retire by 65. They're saving $450 per month than their 2.75% mortgage and old home. And they have a detailed plan for investment properties and college savings. This is what our clients can look like. They're just so stuck on their mortgage rate, right? And they don't look at the entirety of their financial situation. And I'll be honest, most real estate agents and most lenders are not trained to look at this holistically. We only ask a couple questions. And the client doesn't have the information to ask the right ones. So when you go back to your databases after this, let's start asking different questions. Right? Hey, have you done a full holistic analysis of not just your real estate, but everything you're trying to do financially over the next 20 plus years? No, I don't have a financial planner. Oh, you don't need one. We have a financing team that can absolutely help you with that. And they're not going to sell you anything. We're not trying to manage your money here. Maybe they're open to that. So anybody know what's wrong with this client? Someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm ready, I'm pre-approved. What's wrong with that client? Anybody? Everyone's like, nothing. It's the perfect client. So what we found is the person who knows they can buy a home is very different than the person who knows they should, and very different than the person who believes they must. So there's steps to go from that, right? Because what you'll find is you can go online right now and you can get pre-approved in 8 minutes. And what it will do is it will tell you the amount you're approved for, and it will show you a monthly payment. And that will scare you. And you will quickly go, nope, and shut the computer. That's kind of how we do our due diligence right now. Right? But they can buy a home. They got pre-approved. Anyone have a client in here who's pre-approved right now who isn't currently under contract? Why? They're pre-approved. Why aren't they buying a house? I'll tell you why. It's because they're scared. They're nervous. They don't know if it's the right decision. They know they can because they have a piece of paper that says they can. But no one's actually taken the time to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I know you can buy a home, but do you actually believe you should? I don't know. And then the real question is, let me show you why I think you must buy a home. That's the type of intentionality that we need to have with our clients. We need to be able to be courageous with our advice. Otherwise, they're going to make bad decisions, emotional decisions. So there's steps. One is they have to have a deep understanding of the housing market. Right? They need to know that the headline isn't always going to apply to them. There's a process that we take our clients through, and Nick and Dylan can easily show you this, but it's called the bulletproof buyer process, where we get their mind to a place where they know that there's no way they're not buying a home. Right? But it starts with understanding the housing market. Next is the personal economy versus national economy. Everybody looks at national headlines. Is there a recession, stock market, this, that, and the other? Meanwhile, they've never actually looked at their personal economy in relation to their decision making, because no one's taken them through that process or been intentional enough to sit down and walk them through it. Next is they kind of want to know that they're going to have a competitive advantage. That will help them make a smart decision. Right? They're essentially taking a gun to a knife fight. And this is getting your clients fully underwritten, closing in 15 days, removing indices, making them look like cash, showing them how they're going to save money on the price of that home and not have to offer more than the next person. And lastly is just let them know they're not going to be alone for the next 30 years. That's why most people aren't buying homes today, because the thought and the weight of that responsibility, right? It's easier to just rent. This is a big one that I'll talk about here in a second. So again, the courageous advice has to do with this rent versus income. And I do this at every city where I give this presentation, but it says people are suffering intensely. Rent is the critical pain point. Right? It's keeping prospective homeowners stuck in the rental market. Right? This is here, now. People need us more than they ever have. They just need us to be different. So what about when someone says, yeah, thanks, but no thanks? Right? Someone walks into your open house and is a looky-loo. Right? Someone you meet at an event and they just say, oh, cool, yeah, I'm not interested, but thanks. How do you engage with that person? Anybody? How would you get to interact with them? How would you get to show them value? If they don't want to buy or sell a home, what do you as a real estate professional do to show them value? This was a big problem for me because I genuinely did not like the fact that if someone didn't need a mortgage, I couldn't help them. That seemed strange. So the answer is we adopt them. How do you adopt someone? Say, oh, hey, I know you don't want to buy or sell a home, but can you just give me your email and phone number so I can spam you for 10 years? You think you're going to get a lot of emails and phone numbers? No, people don't want or need a mortgage professional or real estate professional unless they're ready, right? Unless it's time. We have to change that. So anyone ever heard of the transaction frequency spectrum? So companies are valued, and you guys are all companies. You're your own company, right? Companies are valued based on how often they're engaging and transacting with their clients. Clicker work? Anyways, real estate and mortgage professionals are in the decade zone. Every 7 to 10 years is when we get to interact or engage or transact with our clients. Oops, sorry, go backwards here. The only person worse than us is the mortician. So how do we get to a place where we are engaging and transacting with our clients more often? And I do this when people say, people aren't going to buy, sell, or finance a home every day, week, or month. You're right. But if that's all they see us as somebody they need every 7 to 10 years, we have a substantial problem. And my Uber driver might be right. But we can fix that, right? Our clients can and should be using us daily, weekly, and monthly. Look at those companies. Right? Amazon should be hourly for my wife. It's literally, it's crazy. It's getting out of hand. But this is how we used to be forgettable, but not anymore. And this is actually where our script for commissions is going to come into play. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith, thank you for asking about the commission. With most real estate agents, you pay a 30-day commission for roughly 30 days worth of work. That is not the case with our team. When you work with our team, any commission you pay is for 30 plus years of proactive advice, guidance, and strategy and value. We will actually make you more generationally wealthy. We will increase your family's net worth because of the way that we engage with you, because of the advice we give you, because of our proactive nature. Any real estate agent that you're paying a commission to for 30 days, I don't think it's worth it. But what we do, I promise you, we will be the most valuable team of people in your life in every aspect of real estate or finance for the next 30 plus years. That's the new script around commissions. But you need to have that level of engagement. You need to show them that level of value. You say, okay, well, how do we do that? So this is something that we use. This is something that we absolutely can co-brand, by the way, so you guys are welcome to use it. But our clients are engaging. Everyone heard of Mint.com? So Mint shut down. It's now Credit Karma. You don't have to pay for it. Right? This is a free, not free, but we pay for it on behalf of the consumer. We invest in it for them, where they're essentially logging into this daily, weekly, or monthly, and they're managing their real estate and financial livelihood. And every time they log in, they see the realtor and they see the lender. Because that's the team of people that are going to help them do that. They don't have a financial planner. Right? They don't have attorneys. They don't have CPAs. They have us. And they're going to see us a lot more often. They're going to set their goals through this app. I want to buy a home. I want to buy a car. I want to save for college. I want to start paying off debt. Not only are we going to see those goals, we're going to help them set them. And then as they're moving towards those goals, we get notifications. Hey, the Smiths are 50% of their way towards their home buying goal. They're 75% of their way towards paying off their debt. We get that information. We get that data. So we get to help our clients proactively maneuver through their life as opposed to reactively. They're constantly approved for a mortgage in perpetuity, right? Because it connects with their bank, it connects with their employer, and it connects with their credit. Meaning every month it just updates their loan approval. Every month, every year. So at any point they can buy a house. Now they have to obviously engage us to do that, but they can click a button and just move all their information into the system and write an offer. Because it's always up to date. We just remove the friction of the mortgage process. Again, that's why they're using it daily, weekly, and monthly. Next is, I don't know if you guys know this, we have a bank affiliation. Our clients bank with us. And as our real estate partners, by extension, they kind of bank with you. It used to really upset me when people would say, oh yeah, we just went with our bank because they have our stuff. Like, all they have is your bank statements. They don't have anything else. Right? But now we get to be a part of that. Right? And we get to offer up to 5% earnings on their savings. I literally made a client $6,000 a year about 5 or 6 months ago. I never made a client money in my life. Tried to save him money, right? Put him into debt. This client had $120,000 with Wells Fargo, making almost little interest, and I'd say, before we do anything, we just need to move that money into a high yield account. That's $480 a month. Do you think he's going to, if you do that for them, do you think they're going to grind you over a little commission? $6,000 a year for the rest of the time they have the money there? Right? That's the totality way that we need to be thinking. That's the value that we need to be providing. And you don't have to manage their money. You just introduce them to the concept and then help them make sure they do it. They get to manage their credit real time. Again, they're using your service daily, weekly, or monthly, which means they're in the app and they get to see their credit score any day, any month. And when they're at the department store counter and they say, hey, do you want to open a credit card? They can just pull it out and be like, what happens if I open a credit card for $5,000? Ooh, no, I don't want to do that. What happens if I pay this card down? What happens if I close this card? They're in real-time simulation capabilities of their credit, which is a highly valuable service. but they see you when that happens. You're the curator of it. All of our clients have a home concierge where we help them with home maintenance, home repairs, updates, appliance recalls, document storage. One of my favorite things to ask a client is, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, have you read that book, How to Be a Great Homeowner? And they go, oh, no, we haven't. I go, that book doesn't exist. I don't know how people are supposed to know how to own a home these days. I lived in my house for 2 years before I knew that I had to change the air filter. No one told me. This does. Ryan, winter's coming, do X. Summer's coming, do Y. Change your air filter. Here's the one you need. Right? Here's a home improvement that'll add X to your valuation. Here's something to avoid. Here's all your service providers you can use for it. Right? We get to make a commitment to help people increase the value of their home regardless of market conditions, not just hope that they do it on their own. On a monthly basis, they get a real estate wealth digest. This is more than just the value of their home. And they see you. This comes from you. Right? And it's like a digital interactive bank statement for their house. I say, how often are you looking at your bank statements? Oh, every month. It's important. We need to know how much is in our checking account. You have 10 times the amount of money in your home than you do your checking account. Why are you not looking at that? Why don't you understand how to use that, how to leverage it, how to make it grow? Right? So not only are our clients using this at a high level, but as they're using it, we're getting the data. We know what they're clicking on. We know what they're looking at. Right? We know their patterns and their behaviors. That helps us proactively help them maneuver to a better place. And data is going to be the absolute most important part of this business moving forward. All right, so we collectively, as realtors and lenders, we're going to know everything that's happening in our clients' life. When there's a birth, a death, a divorce, move up or move down opportunity, empty nest scenario, when somebody goes to college. All right, we're going to know what's happening in our clients' lives. We're going to know when there's better interest rates available for them. Right? We're going to know when their home equity reaches a certain point so we can start having conversations around investing in real estate and growing their real estate portfolio. We know if there's a mortgage inquiry. See, big data is a real thing. One of my favorite conversations to have with real estate agents is they say, oh, I don't want anybody having my database. Like, everyone has your database. It's just data. More people know more about your database than you do. Right? This is, unfortunately, what most people's databases look like. It's a bunch of names, emails, and phone numbers. But you don't know what they're thinking, what their goals are, what direction they're headed. That's just a phone book. But the real estate professional of the future, this is what the database looks like. You know everything about every client in your database. And by the way, you've adopted thousands of clients. Because no one has to do a transaction with you for you to offer everything I just showed you. Every single person in this room right now could get all the value I just showed you by putting in a few pieces of information. And now we've adopted you as a client. And as that happens, as I'm adopting clients by the thousands, we're getting this information on all of them. You see, we have to help people proactively maneuver through the changes and evolutions in their life. Otherwise, they'll just keep on the same path, which is why we're in the situation we are today in our society. You see, I want to be remembered for something very different. When someone thinks of a real estate professional, whether it's realtor or lender, I want them to think, this is the group of people who are going to change the financial course of the generations of my family to come. That wasn't the case for me 7, 8, 9 years ago and beyond. I was just a lender. And when someone asked me, hey, ABC Mortgage is willing to do, I literally lost a loan to a company called Loan Monkey. That's a real company. And I lost to them. I was the number one lender in the county, top 25 in the country, and I lost to Loan Monkey. And I said, what am I doing here? I told them how good my customer service was. I told them how fast I was going to be, how great we're going to be at this, and our relationship management, all these things. But yet they still went with the cheaper option. And as real estate professionals, that cheaper option is coming. It's always been there, but it's coming faster now. And I wanted to be remembered for something different. So there's a story about a guy who invented dynamite. He became one of the wealthiest men in the world. And as he was getting older, his nickname was the Merchant of Death. And he thought, is that really what I want on my tombstone? Does anybody want to go out being known as the Merchant of Death? So what did he do? He said, I want to be remembered for something different. So he invested in a platform to actually start to promote some of the best and brightest individuals who are doing some of the best, most rewarding work in the world. That person's name is Alfred Nobel, the Nobel Peace Prize. Nobody knows he was the Merchant of Death. They just know him for what he's doing today. That's what I'm going to ask all of you to do. We don't get to choose. For the past 20, 30 years, there was the cheap ones, and then there was the valuable ones. Most people were just in the middle. We weren't the cheapest, we weren't the most valuable, and that was okay, because there was enough homes to go around, rates were low, money was accessible. We could just be what we were, and we could make a pretty good living. We don't get to choose anymore. We have to choose whether we want to be the cheapest or the most valuable. And value has very little to do with speed, service, work ethic, you name it. It has everything to do with how we impact the lives of our clients proactively. So my hope, and again, feel free to reach out to Dylan and Nikki, but my hope is the next time somebody asks you what you do for work, tell them you're changing the real estate industry, and I promise you, you'll be much more proud than the way we've done it for the past 20 plus years. Thank you guys for having me here today. I appreciate you coming out.